I raised my sister's secret baby. She came back 10 years later with a liar. I'm Sophie. I'm 38. And 10 years after I became a mother to a child that wasn't mine, my twin sister walked into a courtroom with a lawyer and tried to take her back. This is a story about the family you build, the family you lose, and the quiet, exhausting work of being the one who stays when everyone else leaves. It's about what happens when blood means nothing and presence means everything. And it's about the moment a 10-year-old girl looked at the woman who gave birth to her and said, "You're not my mother." Welcome to Little Bunny Stories, where we tell quiet stories about families, about the love that shows up and the love that doesn't, and about the strength it takes to protect the people who depend on you. If a story ever made you feel less alone, that's why we're here. Drop a comment, hit subscribe, and let's walk through this one together. Here's my story. The night Victoria left Mia with me, it was raining. Not the dramatic, movie kind of rain, just a steady gray drizzle that soaked everything slowly the way grief does. Victoria showed up at my apartment at 11 p.m., no call, no text, just her ancient Honda Civic idling at the curb with the hazards on. She was 28. I was 28, twins, though you'd never know it looking at us. She was all sharp angles and restless energy, always moving, always planning the next escape. I was soft edges and routine, the one who graded papers on Friday nights and went to bed at 10. She had a car seat in the back, and in that car seat a baby. 6 months old, asleep, wrapped in a yellow blanket I'd later learn was the only thing Victoria had bought for her. Sophie. Victoria's voice had that tone I'd learned to recognize in childhood, the tone of someone who needed something and had already decided you'd give it to her. I need you to watch her, just for a little while. A little while, I looked at the baby. At her dark curls, her small fist curled against her cheek, her breathing so soft I could barely hear it over the rain. Victoria, who is this? Mia, her name is Mia. Victoria laughed, that brittle laugh she used when things were falling apart. Surprise, I'm a mom. Where's the father? Gone, Mexico, last I heard. Not that he was ever here. She reached into the car and pulled out a diaper bag, cheap, stained, half empty. I can't do this right now, Soph, I can't. I have an opportunity, a job in LA. Assistant to a music producer, it could be huge, but I can't take a baby to LA, I can't take a baby anywhere. Victoria, you can't just leave a baby with someone. You're not someone, you're my sister. She said it like it was obvious, like it solved everything. And you're good at this stuff, you always were, responsible, stable, the one who has her life together. I teach freshman composition, Victoria, I don't have my life together, I have a studio apartment and a cat, perfect, more room than I have. She pushed the diaper bag into my hands. A few months, Soph, 3 maybe 4, just until I get settled, then I'll send for her. I'll get a place, I'll be ready. I looked at the baby again, Mia. The name felt small in my mouth, fragile. She was still asleep, unaware that her entire life was being negotiated on a wet sidewalk at midnight. Victoria, have you even registered her birth? Does she have insurance, a doctor? I've been meaning to, I've been busy. Busy. The word landed heavy. You've been busy for 6 months. Sophie, please. Victoria's voice cracked, and for a moment I saw something real beneath the performance, fear, exhaustion, the dawning understanding that she'd made choices she didn't know how to undo. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how to be a mother, but you do, you always knew. When we were kids, you were the one playing house, taking care of your dolls, reading books about families. I was never that. I don't know how to be that. So you want me to do it for you. Just for a while, just until I figure it out. I should have said no, I know that now. Every therapist I've ever seen has told me I should have said no, that boundaries exist for a reason, that I didn't owe my sister the raising of her child just because she asked. But I was 28, and I was lonely, and there was a baby in a car seat looking at me with eyes that hadn't yet learned not to trust. And I was the sister who always stayed. The sister who always held the pieces when Victoria broke them. A few months, I said. 3. Maybe 4. Then you come back for her, or I call child services. Those are the terms. Terms, always terms with you. But she was smiling, already backing toward the car, already escaping. You're the best, Soph, seriously, the best sister ever. She hugged me, quick, perfunctory, the hug of someone who was already gone before they left. Then she got in her car and drove away, her taillights disappearing into the rain. And I stood on the sidewalk with a stranger's baby in my arms and the sinking feeling that I'd just made a promise no one intended to keep. 3 months passed. Then 4, then 6. Victoria called twice. The first time, 3 weeks after she left, from a number I didn't recognize. LA is amazing, Soph, the energy here, you wouldn't believe it, I'm making connections. Real connections. Give Mia a kiss for me. The second time, 4 months in, she sounded different. Tired, distracted, the bright energy dimmed. Things are complicated right now. The job fell through, I'm figuring it out. Tell Mia I love her, I'll be there soon, I promise. She didn't call again. I tried her number for a while. It went to voicemail, then to a disconnected message, then to nothing. I called our parents, they hadn't heard from her in months, but they weren't worried. That's Victoria, my mother said, her voice carrying that familiar mix of exasperation and pride. She always lands on her feet. She left her baby mom with me. Well, you're handling it, aren't you? You always handle everything, that's what you're good at. I hung up. Not angry, I was past anger with my parents by then. Just tired. The tired of someone who's been assigned a role so long ago she can't remember auditioning for it. Mia though, Mia was everything I didn't know I needed. She was 6 months old when Victoria left her. All dark curls and serious brown eyes and a laugh that started in her belly and exploded outward like a firework. By 8 months she was crawling. By 10, walking, early, determined, refusing to wait for permission. By a year she had 6 words, and Saucy was her favorite, her name for me, the only name she had for anyone who stayed. I took her to the doctor. I registered her for WIC. I found a daycare I could barely afford and worked extra sections of freshman comp to cover it. I read her goodnight moon until I could recite it in my sleep. I held her when she had ear infections, when she cut her first tooth, when she woke up crying at 3 a.m. and couldn't explain why. I was there for her first steps, her first words, her first day of preschool. Victoria missed all of it. I didn't tell Mia about her at first. What was there to tell? That she had a mother who chose music producers over her. That she had a mother who disappeared. I said your first mommy had to go away for a while when Mia was old enough to ask, and I left it at that. I was Sophie. I was the one who stayed, that was the story and it was true enough. The years passed. Mia grew. She was 5 when she asked about Victoria again, really asked. We were in the park on our favorite bench under the oak tree. She was eating a popsicle blue, the kind that turns your tongue purple. And she looked at me with those serious eyes, Victoria's eyes. I'd realized by then, though everything else about her was a mystery, a combination of genes from a father she'd never know. Saucy, she still called me that sometimes, though she'd mostly graduated to Mom by then. Why didn't my first mommy want me? The question hit me like a physical blow. I'd prepared for it, rehearsed answers in my head, read parenting books about adopted children and identity and loss. But nothing prepares you for the moment a child looks at you and asks why they weren't enough. She wanted you, I said carefully. She didn't know how to be a mommy, she didn't know how to stay, and that wasn't about you, baby, that was about her. Did she love me? I think she did in her way, but love isn't just a feeling, Mia. It's what you do. It's showing up, even when it's hard. It's being there, even when you don't want to be. Your first mommy couldn't do that, but that doesn't mean you weren't worth it. You were always worth it. You are worth everything. Mia considered this, her popsicle dripping onto her shirt, staining it blue. I'm glad you stayed, Saucy. I'm glad too, baby, every single day. She hugged me then, sticky and warm and completely mine, and I held her and thought, this is enough, this is everything. Whatever Victoria took from her, whatever I couldn't give her, this moment, this love, this staying, it was enough. By the time Mia was 10, I'd stopped expecting Victoria to appear. I'd stopped looking for her in crowds, stopped checking her old social media accounts, stopped wondering if today would be the day she showed up with explanations and apologies. I'd built a life. Small, imperfect, but solid. I had tenure at the university, not glamorous but stable. I had friends, real ones, who knew my story and didn't judge it. I had Mia, who was thriving, straight A's, a passion for drawing, a small group of friends who came over on weekends and made the apartment feel loud and alive. I'd also started the adoption process, quietly without telling Mia yet because I didn't want to get her hopes up. I'd consulted a lawyer, filed the paperwork, done everything by the book. Victoria had abandoned Mia legally, definitively, with years of no contact, no support, no evidence of any intention to return. The law was clear. I was Mia's mother in every way that mattered. I just needed the paperwork to catch up. Then the letter came. It arrived on a Tuesday, certified mail, return address from a law firm in Los Angeles I'd never heard of. I opened it at the kitchen table, Mia at school, the apartment quiet except for the cat purring on the windowsill. The letter was from Victoria, or rather from her attorney. She was seeking custody of her daughter, Mia Hartwell. She alleged that I had wrongfully retained the child, that I had alienated the mother-child relationship, that I had exploited her temporary absence to assume parental rights without consent. She was requesting immediate custody, child support from me for the years I'd unlawfully cared for Mia, and compensation for emotional distress and loss of parental bonding. I read it 3 times. Then I put it down and walked to the bathroom and threw up. Not from fear, from rage. From the pure, blinding fury of someone who's been used their entire life by a person who now wanted to use them one more time. Victoria had abandoned her child. She'd disappeared for 10 years. She'd sent no money, no letters, no birthday cards. She'd missed first steps and first words and first days of school. She'd missed everything. And now she wanted Mia back. Not because she loved her. Because Mia was 10, and beautiful and thriving and suddenly valuable. Because Victoria had failed at everything else, the music career, the relationships, the life she'd run toward, and she needed something to show for it. She needed the child she'd built nothing for, the child I'd raised with sleepless nights and second jobs and the constant, grinding work of showing up. I called my lawyer. Then I called my best friend Rachel, who listened to me cry for 20 minutes and then said the thing I needed to hear. She doesn't get to do this, Soph. Not after 10 years. Not after everything. You have proof, you have evidence, you have Mia. I have Mia, I repeated. But what if the court? What if they think blood matters more than time? Then we make them understand that time is blood, that presence is love, that you are her mother, and Victoria is a stranger with a biological claim and nothing else. The hearing was scheduled for March. 3 months of preparation, of gathering documents, of sleepless nights and anxiety that made my hands shake. I didn't tell Mia immediately. I didn't want to scare her, didn't want her to carry the weight of a legal battle she didn't create. But she knew something was wrong. She always knew. She was 10, but she'd been watching me since she was 6 months old, reading my moods the way children of uncertain homes learn to read adults for survival, for comfort, for love. Mom, she asked it one night, 2 weeks before the hearing. We were doing her homework at the kitchen table, fractions, which she hated and I wasn't much better at. Are you sad? I'm worried, baby, about something grown up. Is it about my first mommy? I looked at her. She was drawing in the margin of her math worksheet small figures, men and a child holding hands. The woman had curly hair like hers. The child had curly hair too. Why do you ask? I heard you on the phone with the lawyer lady. You said her name, Victoria. She didn't look up from her drawing. Is she coming back? She wants to, baby. She wants to see you. Why? The question was simple, direct, the way children's questions always are. Why? The question I'd asked myself 1,000 times. Why now? Why after 10 years? Why? When she'd missed everything, did she think she had a right to what I'd built? I don't know, Mia. I honestly don't know, but I need to tell you something and I need you to listen carefully. She put down her pencil, looked at me. Those serious brown eyes, Victoria's eyes, but filled with a steadiness Victoria never had. A long time ago, before you were old enough to remember, your first mommy asked me to take care of you, just for a little while, and I said yes. And then she didn't come back, and I kept taking care of you, because I loved you, because you were my baby, even if I didn't give birth to you. And now, 10 years later, she wants to be your mommy again. She wants to take you to live with her. Mia's face didn't change, she just watched me waiting. But I don't want that, I continued. I don't want you to go anywhere. I want you to stay here with me in our home, with our life. And I'm going to fight for that. In court, with lawyers, with everything I have. But I need you to know that whatever happens, I love you. I've loved you since the first night I held you, and I will love you until the day I die. Nothing Victoria does, nothing the court says, nothing in the world can change that. Mia was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took my hand, her small fingers, still stained with blue marker from art class, interlacing with mine. I don't want to go anywhere either, she said. I want to stay with you. You're my mom, the other one. She's just a story. Just a story. The words hit me like a wave. To Mia, Victoria was a story I'd told her, a character in the narrative of her life, not a person, not a presence, not a mother, just a story with a beginning and a middle and no ending yet. She might try to talk to you, I said. In court, the judge might want to hear what you think. Then I'll tell him I already have a mom. The courtroom was small, wood-paneled, smelling of old paper and floor wax. I sat at the plaintiff's table with my lawyer, Elena, a sharp-faced woman in her 50s who specialized in family law and had seen every variation of broken family imaginable. Victoria sat at the defendant's table with a man in an expensive suit who looked like he'd never lost a case. Victoria looked different. Older. Of course, we were both 38 now, though she looked younger, the way people who don't carry responsibility often do. Her hair was still blonde, still styled, still perfect. She wore a navy dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, and she sat with her hands folded, looking every inch the concerned mother, the wronged woman, the victim of her sister's betrayal. When she saw me, she smiled. Not a warm smile. A tactical one. The smile of someone who'd already won in her head and was just waiting for reality to catch up. "Sophie," she said, as if we were meeting for coffee, "you look well." I didn't answer. Alina had warned me not to engage, not to let Victoria pull me into her narrative. "She'll try to make you emotional," Alina had said. "She'll try to make you look unstable, reactive, unfit. You stay calm, you let the evidence speak." The judge entered. Judge Harriet Chen, 60-ish. Glasses, no-nonsense expression. She'd read the briefs. She knew the basics, but she didn't know us. She didn't know the 10 years of nights and mornings and doctor's appointments and parent-teacher conferences. She didn't know the story. That was my job, to tell it, to make her see. Victoria's lawyer went first. He was smooth, practiced, telling a story of a young mother overwhelmed by circumstance, who'd made a temporary arrangement with her stable, responsible sister, and who'd been systematically prevented from reuniting with her child by that sister's manipulation and control. He used words like alienation and parental interference and unlawful retention. He made me sound like a kidnapper. He made Victoria sound like a victim. Then it was my turn. Alina stood, and she didn't tell a story of villainy and virtue. She told a story of facts. 10 years of facts. She introduced the receipts. Every doctor's visit I'd paid for. Every school registration I'd signed. Every birthday party I'd planned. Every Halloween costume I'd made. Every parent-teacher conference I'd attended. The photos, thousands of them, organized by year, showing Mia at every stage, always with me, always held, always seen. The videos, Mia's first steps, her first words, her kindergarten graduation, her science fair project, her learning to ride a bike. The letters, the ones Mia had written me for Mother's Day, the ones I'd kept in a box under my bed. To Mom, I love you more than the moon. And then the absence. The phone records showing no calls from Victoria, the emails returned undelivered, the social media accounts abandoned, the 10 years of silence, of absence, of nothing. Your Honor, Alina concluded, my client didn't steal this child, she saved her. She raised her alone, with no help, no support, no acknowledgement from the woman who now claims to be her mother. Biological connection is not parenthood. Presence is parenthood. Love is parenthood. And by every measure that matters, Sophie Hartwell is Mia's mother. Victoria Hartwell is a stranger with a genetic claim and a decade of absence. Victoria's lawyer objected, of course. He argued that circumstances had prevented Victoria from maintaining contact, that she'd been struggling with mental health issues, that she'd tried repeatedly to reach out but had been blocked by me. He produced no evidence of these attempts, no letters, no emails, no phone records, just his client's word delivered with practiced tears. Then Victoria took the stand. She was good. I'd forgotten how good she was at performing need, at making herself the center of every story. She cried beautifully, dabbing her eyes with a tissue. She talked about her struggles, her journey, desperate desire to reunite with my baby. She looked at Mia, who was sitting in the gallery with Rachel, small and serious in her best dress, and she held out her hand and said, "Mia, baby, Mommy's here, Mommy's finally here." Mia didn't move, didn't speak, just watched her with those steady brown eyes, the eyes that saw everything. Your Honor, Victoria's lawyer said, we request that Mia be allowed to testify. She's 10, old enough to express her wishes. And clearly, she's been influenced by her aunt's narrative. Given time, given proper reunification therapy, we believe she'll come to understand that her true mother is the one who gave her life. Judge Chen looked at Mia, then at me, then at Victoria. I'll speak with the child in chambers, she said. Counsel, wait here. They were gone for 40 minutes. The longest 40 minutes of my life. I sat at the table with Alina, my hands clasped so tight my knuckles were white, and I tried to breathe. Tried to believe that truth mattered, that presence mattered, that a decade of love could outweigh a biological claim and a performance of grief. When they returned, Mia walked beside the judge, not looking at me, not looking at Victoria, just walking, small and straight, to the witness stand. She was sworn in. She said her name, Mia Hartwell, 10 years old, and she looked at the judge, not at either of us. Mia, Judge Chen said gently, I need to ask you some questions. I need you to tell me the truth as best you can. Can you do that? Yes, ma'am. Do you know the woman sitting at that table? She pointed at Victoria. Yes, that's Victoria, my first mommy. And do you know the woman at the other table? Yes, that's Sophie, my mom. Mia, if you could live with either of these women, who would you choose? The courtroom held its breath. Victoria was leaning forward, her face a mask of hope and expectation. I was frozen, unable to move, unable to look away from my daughter's face. Mia looked at Victoria, really looked at her. Then she looked at me and she spoke. I choose Sophie, she's my mom. Victoria is she's just a person who left. She wasn't there when I was sick. She wasn't there when I learned to read. She wasn't there for anything. Sophie was. Sophie is always there. Even when she's tired, even when she's sad, even when she doesn't want to be, she's there. That's what a mom is. She turned to the judge, her voice steady, her eyes clear. Victoria gave birth to me, but Sophie is my mother and I don't want to go anywhere. I want to stay with my mom. Victoria made a sound, a cry, a gasp, something between grief and rage. Mia, baby, you don't understand. She turned you against me. That's enough. Judge Chen's voice was sharp, final. Miss Hartwell, control your client or she'll be removed. Victoria's lawyer pulled her back, whispering urgently, but Victoria was beyond control, tears streaming down her face. The performance collapsed into something real and ugly and raw. She's my daughter, she screamed. She's mine, I gave birth to her. You gave birth to her, Mia said quietly, not looking at her. But you didn't give her anything else. Judge Chen ruled from the bench. It was unusual, she said, but the facts were clear. Victoria Hartwell had abandoned her child 10 years ago and made no effort to maintain contact, provide support, or establish a relationship. Sophie Hartwell had provided continuous care, stability, and love. Mia Hartwell, old enough to express her wishes clearly and consistently, had chosen to remain with Sophie. Custody was awarded to Sophie Hartwell. Victoria's petition was denied. Furthermore, given the evidence of abandonment and the potential for future disruption, the court would entertain a petition for termination of parental rights and adoption by Sophie if she chose to file. Victoria was escorted from the courtroom, still crying, still protesting, still claiming ownership of a child she'd never known. I didn't watch her go. I was too busy holding Mia, who'd run from the witness stand into my arms, her small body shaking with sobs she'd held in for too long. I love you, Mom, she whispered into my neck. I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you too, baby, forever, always, no matter what. That was 6 months ago. The adoption is final. Mia is legally, officially, irrevocably my daughter. Victoria has no rights, no access, no claim. The court recommended she seek counseling before attempting any future contact and set a review for when Mia turns 18, at which point Mia herself can decide if she wants to know the woman who gave birth to her and nothing else. I don't know if Victoria will seek counseling. I don't know if she'll try to contact Mia when she turns 18. I don't know anything about her life now, and I no longer care to know. She is a chapter in my history, a character in a story that has ended. Not happily, exactly, but honestly. Truthfully, with the right people in the right places. Mia and I planted a tree last month. An oak in the small yard of the house I bought with my savings, a real house with a real yard with room for Mia to grow and for me to finally stop moving. We planted it together, her small hands and my larger ones pressing dirt around the roots. For us, Mia said, so it grows while we grow. For us, I agreed. She's 11 now. She still draws, still gets straight A's, still calls me Mom in a voice that sounds like home. She has nightmares sometimes about Victoria, about being taken away, about losing me. I hold her through them, the way I've held her through everything, and I tell her the truth. That I'm not going anywhere, that she's not going anywhere, that we are each other's now forever, no matter what. And she believes me. Because I've earned that belief, because I stayed. Because love, real love, is not a feeling. It's a practice. It's showing up day after day, year after year, even when it's hard, even when it costs, even when no one thanks you for it. Victoria never learned that. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe she was broken in ways I don't understand, by things I didn't experience. I don't hate her anymore. I don't even blame her, not really. I just don't need her. I don't need her approval, her acknowledgement, her presence. I have everything I need. I have Mia. I have our life. I have the tree in the yard, growing slowly toward the sky. That's my story. If someone made you feel like you were only good for cleaning up other people's messes, hear me, you're not. You're good for so much more. You're good for staying. You're good for loving. You're good for building something real from the pieces everyone else discarded. And if you ever get the chance to choose between the family that shares your blood and the family that shares your life, choose the one that stayed. Every single time. I'm Sophie. I'm 38. I have a daughter who isn't mine by birth but is mine in every way that matters. And that's enough. That's everything. See you in the next story.